FPUC. It is in the third stimulus package, $400 a week going forward. But how do you get FPUC? How does it work? What are the deal provisions? In this throwback video, I go over how to get UI, PUA. What are they? I go over FPUC. What is it? It's important you understand these very simple questions, especially how to certify for benefits, how to do escalated benefits. So in this Overnights LA video, I do a throwback on unemployment. Enjoy this great throwbacks video on Overnights LALATE. Is your PUA about to expire, or are you a bit confused? Hey everybody, this is LALATE with a second stimulus check update. This is our third stimulus package update of the day. This one, of course, is always about unemployment benefits, UI, PUA, FPUC, extended benefits, and everything in between. Earlier today, we detailed in our first stimulus check visit the check itself, SSI, SSDI, Social Security, Veterans Benefits. Our second video was about hazard pay, and we went through the definitions of essential worker, new updates about that as well. And our final video today will be about renter's assistance and free rent money. But this one's getting to PUA, UI, and unemployment benefits. One of the comments that I got overnight was from one viewer that says, "I'm getting UI and PUA," said the viewer. Another viewer said, "I'm worried my PUA is about to run out in late July." And another one said, "How do I get PUA because because I still worked a few hours of work last week?" All three questions show that despite my efforts with this channel, PUA is still quite confusing because people apparently are getting things very confused. Let me get to all those three comments first so you see where I'm going with this before I get to the nuance of PUA, which is this video. First, someone said I'm getting UI and PUA together. No, you're not. PUA is not the $600 from the federal government. The $600 from the federal government is FPUC, which I'll detail in a second. Second, someone said my PUA is running out in July. No, it's not. PUA is 33 weeks starting in March. What's running out in July, again, is FPUC, the $600 from the federal government. Finally, someone said, I can't get PUA because I worked a couple of hours that week. Well, no, also untrue. PUA pays for benefits when you are reduced to partial unemployment. So here we go. Let's get back to what is PUA, UI, and FPUC because it's still apparently a realm of confusion. And what I'm going to do new in this video is I'm going to go through the eligibility categories for PUA. All right, first of all, UI and PUA are totally different. UI is for employees, W-2s, people who work at Macy's, for example. PUA is for independent contractors, like plumbers, people who have their own business. FPUC is something totally different, which I'm going to get to in a second. One of the requirements for PUA is that you must be ineligible for UI. In order to get PUA benefits, you must be ineligible for UI. So you can't get UI and PUA at the same time. They are absolutely prohibited. In fact, states won't even process it. They will require a PUA applicant to get a denial of UI first in many states because they want to ensure that you are not a UI person. Second, what happens between UI and PUA? Well, ostensibly the same thing happens. You get paid for weekly benefits. For UI, you get paid for weekly benefits, and for PUA, you get paid for weekly benefits. So where is that $600 from the federal government coming in? It's called FPUC. It's not called PUA. It's called FPUC. That's $600 from the federal government. It is paid on top of UI and on top of PUA. So what is the rub that you need to know? What you need to know is that $600 from the federal government runs out in late July. This channel has been reporting that it's highly likely going to be extended under the HEROES Act. But the $600 from the federal government is what ends in late July, not UI and not PUA. The $600 from the federal government was provided for, enacted into law in the CARES Act, which was adopted into law in May. The CARES Act provided $600 from the federal government to be paid to you on top of UI and on top of PUA for every week you're impacted by the pandemic from the months of March to the month of July. It expires in July. That's $600 from the federal government, FPUC. So what's going to happen? There is a proposal. That proposal is the HEROES Act. The HEROES Act is currently in the Senate. It is from the House, and it proposes to extend PUA into 2021. That's great news. What's even bigger great news is that if you are on PUA or on UI, those weeks of $600 from the federal government will be further extended into 2021. Further extended than people who newly go onto UI or PUA after the HEROES Act is adopted, presumably around August 8th. So let me recap, let me say that again. If you are on PUA and UI now and getting that $600 from the federal government, good. And if you qualify for it now, get it now. Why? Because you will get additional weeks into 2021 if you need them than someone who only goes to apply for PUA or UI starting after the bill is adopted in late August, September. They will get less weeks of benefits into next year. All right, so that is FPUC, the $600 from the federal government. Then we talk about number of weeks of benefits. And I get this a lot in the questions. All right, so PUA, under the CARES Act, it was PUA was enacted into law. It was enacted into law under the CARES Act in May. How many weeks? 33 weeks. There's 33 weeks of PUA currently. PUA starts in March, as early as March, and goes 33 weeks into the future. So PUA is not expired in July. That's not 33 weeks. Next, PUA is a federal law. It can't be changed except by federal law. It is not changed by state law. A lot of people were dropping in the comments incorrect remarks, which unfortunately I had to delete, that said their state had changed PUA. Their state had extended PUA benefits. No state has extended PUA benefits. What states have done is they've extended state UI benefits, which I'm getting to in a second. States cannot extend PUA benefits of 33 weeks. They don't have the authority to do so, and they haven't done that. All right, so then we get to UI weeks of benefits. What are the current UI weeks of benefits? Okay, there's there's currently 3 periods of UI benefits. There's currently 3 on the books that are law. First, your normal number of state UI weekly benefits that have always been the case of your state pre-pandemic. Next, an additional set of weeks were provided for you for UI benefits under the CARES Act. What is that called? That's called FPEUC. FPUC gave you a second extension. It gave you additional weeks of UI benefits than normally provided. What's after that? Well, after that is what a lot of states are doing now, which is called extended benefits. That's what happened in California just a few days ago. States, by state law, can extend their state's number of weeks of unemployment benefits in the case of an emergency, and a lot of states have. So you normally have your normal weeks of UI benefits. States then will provide you additional weeks under the CARES Act, FPEUC. Then states have now enacted what's called extended benefits, which gets you additional weeks of UI benefits. All right, so that is the UI benefits. Now, what is on the horizon? Well, 2 things on the horizon. 1, the extension of UI benefits even further. That's in the HEROES Act. The HEROES Act is providing to give you additional weeks of UI benefits on top of what I just told you, on top of all those extensions into 2021. Second, the HEROES Act is proposing to extend PUA past the 33 weeks, which I just detailed for you as well. So a lot of extensions there. No concern currently that anything is running out, so don't worry about that. A lot of you have asked me, how do I get those weeks triggered, those extensions triggered? I don't know the answer. States are supposed to do it automatically. I don't know what every state is doing. Someone gave me a very nice compliment overnight and said, hey, when you don't know what the answer is, you clearly say, I don't know the answer. In this case, I don't know the answer of how they automatically extend your benefits. All I am reporting to you is what the law is and what they're doing in your states. So now let me get to PUA itself. One of the viewers said, I don't think I qualify for PUA because I worked a couple hours. That shows that there's still some confusion about what PUA is. PUA does not require you to be totally unemployed. I'll repeat that again. PUA does not require you to be totally unemployed. So what are the grounds for PUA? Well, there's labor issues that will cause you to be eligible for PUA, and then there's health issues that cause you to be eligible for PUA. Let me go over the work issues, the labor issues that make you eligible for PUA. The last one I want to do first, because this is the one that will clearly apply to most of the viewers of this channel. You only need to be partially unemployed because of the pandemic. Okay? So an example is pre-pandemic, you work 40 hours a week as a plumber, self-employed. Because of the pandemic, you're only getting about 3 hours of work per week. And so you've lost 40 minus 3, 37 hours of work per week because of the pandemic. You are partially unemployed. You qualify for PUA if that's impacted by, if that reduction was a result of COVID-19. Absolutely qualifies. What does this language state? It says you are unemployed, comma, partially unemployed, comma, or unable to work because of COVID-19 has forced you to stop working. So this is important for me to go over this with you, is because when you go to apply for PUA, you need to look for that line. If that line applies to you, you are unemployed, comma, partially unemployed. So we'll always look for that word partially. This is federal wording. This is federal law. It's not state. Some states like to hack it around a little bit, I will admit that, but they generally use exactly the same words as the federal law. There are other grounds to qualify for PUA. For work purposes. One, you had a definite date to begin work, but the job is no longer available, or you cannot reach the job as a direct result of COVID-19. That is one of the second most common situations. That's, for example, you're a maintenance worker, you are self-employed, and your client is a school, and the school is closed because of COVID-19. You are unable to travel to your job as a direct result of COVID-19. That would have something to do with travel restrictions. You quit your job as a direct result of COVID-19. Or your workplace is closed as a direct result of COVID-19. So let's say you're the that almost overlaps with the other one. And remember, you only need one ground for eligibility. A lot of people don't tell you that. You only need one ground for eligibility. So if you are the maintenance worker at a school and you're independent contractor, you're not a salaried employee, and the school is closed because of COVID-19, your workplace is closed due to COVID-19, you qualify. Pretty easy, not difficult. There are health reasons additionally that you can qualify for. Remember, you only need one ground. You don't have to have health and labor work. You can have just work. You can have just health. You don't have to have all of these. You can just have one of any of these things I'm mentioning. The most obvious example, and the one I talk about all the time, you have COVID. You have COVID, you qualify for PUA if you're an independent contractor. Absolutely. Now, the way they phrase it is that you have the diagnosis COVID. Very simple. If you are rushing to get onto PUA, which I don't think you would if you're very, very sick, but if you're rushing to get on PUA but haven't seen the doctor yet, then it says, or experiencing symptoms of COVID and are seeking medical diagnosis. My suggestion is, if you think you have COVID, get tested, get that result, and if you're positive, then you qualify for PUA. A member of your household has been diagnosed with COVID. You are caring for a family member or a member of your household who has COVID. You're caring for a dependent during the workday because their school or another care facility is closed due to COVID. I've had a couple of viewers like this. This is an interesting one. It's the parent-child relationship. The child does not need to be on COVID. The parent does not need to be on COVID. But the child had to stay at home because the school was closed because of COVID. And this is a child. This is a dependent. This is not a kid in college. This is a child. And you had to stay at home and provide them, daycare at home for your child. Then you're entitled to COVID-19. You're entitled to PUA for those prescribed weeks. Your health provider told you to self-quarantine, or you're the main income provider due to death of someone in your house because of COVID-19. Now, one of the things that comes to mind when I'm reading that, and I don't think it's always clear to people, is that when you ask for PUA assistance, you are talking about a certain number of weeks. And so those certain number of weeks could give you the eligibility and the payment for those weeks. You don't have to always be on PUA. So, for example, the one with the father and the child, and you had to stay home because your son, and the son is, in preschool. So an example of that is that may have happened in your life from March to May, but now in June or July, the school is reopened. So if this happened for several months, you're entitled to payment for those several months, but then once the child goes back, then you just don't get benefits going forward. Pretty easy, not complicated. If you have questions in today's video, drop them in the comments below, and I'll be happy to answer them in tomorrow's recording. As always, stay with LA for more.